Van Dodge. People are coming from all over South Jersey and beyond for the Jeep Celebration and Ram Power Days event at Van Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram just off Route 55 Delta Drive, Vineland, or at vanhazit.com. We'll see you there. Sal Paolantonio, ESPN's NFL reporter, every Friday at this time on the Sports Bash. Good to hear from you, Sal. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Boy, you're right about that game last night. What dreck. No wonder why the ratings are down in the NFL.
Had a big interaction on that very topic yesterday, asking people all over, why are they not watching or why are they watching less? And all over the gamut, Sal. People giving a lot of reasons, but tops on that list, bad product. They're just tired of the officiating, the product, and that's the top. And it's not the only answer. Top answer I got yesterday, bad product.
And the NFL needs to pay attention to that. The one thing you can't do is you cannot ignore your clients. You can't ignore your customers. And it's the worst thing you can do if you're a monopoly. If you're a monopoly and you ignore your customers, you wind up like Sears.
That's good. That's
or Macy's, where you're closing down stores because someone else came along and gave you a better product.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of times when you don't have any competition, you get complacent sometimes. The problem they have, Sal, is...
Yes. They don't have any competition, and they act like it. They act like a monopoly that has no competition. And so they don't listen to outside forces. They don't listen to their clients and their customers, their customer base. And they're doing a poor job of interacting with their customers. I mean, the biggest reason that I hear people that don't go to the games, it's expensive. Parking's expensive. But the number one reason is, Mike, they don't want to stand in those security lines.
Part of the problem with the bad play, Sal, is the safety reasons. I mean, these rules are in place for safety. They can't change that now, right? I mean, they can't do anything about it, so they're kind of stuck. If you're telling me it's a bad product because of the way the game's officiated and the safety rules, the NFL really can't change that.
And I would take one referee off the field. They're thinking about adding from 7 to 8. I would go from 7 to 6 because I think officiating is definitely ruining the game.
Yeah, over policed. The fans. The games are clunky. Sal, you watch a game on TV. There's a flag, and when there's not a flag, there's guys asking for flags. Something they say the NFL put out a memo that ESPN obtained that said the presidential election is the reason for the decline in the ratings. That's what they're citing. Do you agree with that?
I don't, because I think people have pretty much made up their mind about the presidential race. I think there is sort of like a train wreck feature to it where people tune in a little bit to see, what did Hillary say next, or what did Donald say next? There is some of that. But I think the race is so polarized and people have made up their minds that that's not the case. Now, the first debate destroyed Monday Night Football, Falcons-Saints, and the second debate is going to kill Sunday Night Football. There's no question about that. Those debates are must-see TV. So there is that aspect to it. But I agree with you. The feedback that I get, Mike, is the same feedback you're getting. It's a boring, bad product.
Also, real quick, and I do want to get into the game here real quick.
Except here in Philadelphia.
Yes.
It's not.
No.
It is not. And here's some interesting thing. What was your question? I've done a little bit of a, I had to buy last week. So I was able to recharge my batteries. Thank you for giving me Sal Pal Friday off last week. I kind of needed it a little bit. It was a wild and crazy off season around the birds. So, but I did a little bit of a study just in the last couple of 24, 48 hours of the state of the top teams in the league, and I think you'd be interested to find out what I found.
I'm interested to hear that. But the one thing I was just going to interject real fast was on this, that I believe that the younger generation is not the hardcore football fan. Like, I'm 39. I'll be 40. I feel that generation right behind me is not the live and die traditional. They're the fantasy fan. They don't need to watch their team play on Sunday. And I think that is starting to show a little bit.
Yep, there's no question about that. It's big. They're consuming the game on their phone to get their fantasy football update, but they're not watching it on television. Case in point, in my own household, I have 6 millennials, 3 daughters, 2 son-in-laws, and a son-in-law-to-be. all millennials. None of them pays a cable bill. None.
Wow. Cut the cord, right? Cut the cord. But if you cut the cord, you're not seeing something special happening in Philadelphia right now, Sal. So tell us a little bit of the investigative.
Well, right now, Mike, there are two teams that I think are being seriously undervalued and underrated. I have Seattle, Minnesota, Atlanta, New England, Pittsburgh. Those are good teams. They're top teams in the league. There's no question. But I think there are two that are being undervalued and underrated by the prognosticators and even by Vegas. They're the only two teams that right now are perfect against the spread. In the AFC, it's the Broncos, perfect 4-0 against the spread. In the NFC, the Eagles are the only team in the NFC perfect against the spread, 3-0. What else do they have in common, the Broncos and the Eagles? They're the only two teams in the NFL in the top 5 in both points scored and points allowed. Broncos in the AFC, Eagles in the NFC. Both teams coached by backup quarterbacks, Peterson and Kubiak. Both teams have first-time starters at quarterback, Wentz and Simeon. But here's the key. Here's the difference. Both teams have these scheming, diabolical defensive coordinators who know how to coach pass defense. And I think the pendulum is swinging from the experienced, lights-out quarterback as the perfect route to a Super Bowl championship to the best pass defense. What team can defend the pass? The Broncos have given up 2 passing touchdowns. The Eagles are the only team in the league to give up 0. And remember, last year, the Eagles gave up 36 passing touchdowns.
And in no game,
they set a franchise record. They're at 0.
And in no game,
I think the pendulum is swinging to pass defense as the most dominant component of a championship caliber team.
Well, that's interesting because the Eagles would be perceived, I guess, that their corners were, mediocre. But in no game last year was that more evident than Detroit, where they got burned. I mean, Calvin Johnson lit them up. They got crushed in this game last year. How different are we about 300 days later?
No Calvin Johnson.
That's true. But Philadelphia is a heck of a lot different than they were on Thanksgiving Day.
Nope. If I'm Jim Schwartz, and I'm sure Schwartzy has done this, he walked into that building and said, I wasn't here last year, and here's what happened to you when you went into Detroit. They dropped 45 on you. They had Calvin Johnson. Do you see Calvin Johnson out there? You see any passing touchdowns we've given up? And here's the interesting thing, and this will be a great litmus test, right, Mike? Great litmus test. The defensive personnel for the Eagles is largely unchanged from last year. And yet, they are geometrically better, especially in the critical area of pass defense because of scheme and coaching. You go from a 3-4 that didn't work for the personnel to a 4-3 that does. And you play with you add one safety who is a perfect fit with Malcolm Jenkins, and you play to protect the back end of your defense while you're attacking the quarterback on the front end. I'll tell you, I feel this will be a rough game for Matthew Stafford. I really do.
Yes, I agree with you there because look, somebody suggested that Donald might be the best player in the league right now, and then he wins the Defensive Player of the Week. Cox wins it. It shows you how important that position has become to the passing, the ability to stop the pass, because the Eagles just get so much pressure up the middle, and then when you go to double Cox, you got Graham playing at such a high level that these quarterbacks, they don't have the time. I think that is the success of this Eagles defense. It all starts with Fletcher in the middle.
It does, but the safety play has been phenomenal. The communication between McLeod and Jenkins and their ability to play quarterback on the back end of the defense has been really something that is getting better and better week in and week out. And don't forget, they've been missing perhaps their best corner, McKelvin.
Yes.
And, they're going to get him back this week. That's going to give them extra components to do what Schwartz wants in this football game. So I think the focus, the storyline on national TV will be Wentz this, Wentz that. But if you do that, you're missing the point. I think this is Schwartz against Stafford, and I think it's a mismatch for the Eagles' defense.
Yeah, Sal Pal Friday here. I tend to agree that this defense is going to be a big factor in this game tomorrow. And I guess a lot of those guys, as you mentioned, it's a lot of the same personnel. They got to take personal what happened to them last year. They got embarrassed in that game last year. And you wonder, if not for that game, was that the game that kind of started the cracks that started
no
this?
Question.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. There's no question because that team did not want to play in that game. They didn't show up.
Hey, Ertz is back. Peterson suggested, hey, we've been waiting for this all year. You wonder what that adds to this offense and for Wentz, who has already been pretty good, but he gets another weapon to play with, and I think Ertz might be the best weapon for Wentz on this team.
Well, I think he could be. I mean, to me, the best overall component of their offense is Darren Sproles. I mean, the guy is averaging 16 yards per catch. And if they do give him the football more in space, I think he will be a much better runner. But to me, he's the best option. You know, in my view, they need to do exactly what got them to this point. And there's some pretty interesting, trends just in the first 3 weeks. Wentz is only throwing the ball very short distances. His throws at or behind the line of scrimmage is 29%, which is the highest in the league. So Peterson's done a good job of putting him in a position, I think, to succeed. And I don't think they're going to go outside that comfort zone very much in this game. I don't see them trying any big down-the-field plays. I think you're right. I think Zach Ertz will help, but he'll only help within the confines of what the structure of what they've already set up for Wentz. The last thing they want to do, in my view, and just by being there for 2 days this week at NovaCare and listening to the players and the coaches and talking to them in the locker room, Mike, is they want to stick to what has made Wentz successful. You don't want to come back from the bye and say, oh, we're going to take the training wheels off, or we're going to attack downfield, or we're going to do something drastically different. That would be a huge mistake.
It's all Sunday, 1 o'clock right here on 97.3 ESPN. Sal Powell, of course, it sounds like you like the Eagles in this game.
I do, because of Schwartz. Schwartz against the Lions offense, I'm telling you, that's going to be a one-sided affair. Remember the last time he went in there 2 years ago with the Bills, he held them to 14 points with Megatron. And this defense is playing at or above the level of that Bills defense 2 years ago. Personnel may be a little bit better, but two of those guys who are playing with Buffalo are on this team.
That's right.
So I think this is a game where they'll duplicate a lot of what they did 2 years ago when Schwartz went there with that Buffalo defense. The score was 17-14. Ironically, the Eagles are favored by 3. I think in this game. So I think the Eagles will win this game 20-13. I don't think they'll score a whole lot of points. I think they're going to be a little bit rusty on offense. In their history, Mike, this is amazing. We had Elias Sports Bureau check this out because ESPN Stats and Information came up with this number for me during the week, and I didn't put it out on the air until right now. In their history, the Eagles have never started the season in their first 4 games without a turnover. It's never happened.
Wow.
Odds are so against them on Sunday. If they go into the 4th game of the season without a turnover, it'll be the first time since the team was founded in 1933.
Shoo. Well, it seems like it's been that kind of year. We'll see how they respond out of this bye week. Andy was always really good out of the bye week, and I guess people will now
You want to know the number? I got the number for you.
What is it?
15-2 out of the bye week. And you know who his protege is? Doug Peterson.
There we go. I know. Well, that's his thing to watch. Is Doug taking everything that Andy gave him and bettered it? And is this something he can carry with him? And I know.
I think it is. I think it is.
And I agree with you on Schwartz too. I think Schwartz is a perfect personality for this city and this team. But I think he really wants that defense to have a big day on Sunday.
He really does. The storyline nationally. You'll turn on the TV on Sunday. It'll be all Wentz. But don't lose sight that the real story is going to be about Schwartz against Stafford.
Sal Pal Fridays, everybody, here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Sal, it was good to have you back, pal. Enjoy the game.
All right, brother.
Take care. Sal Pal.